Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
Omar says the hope and change offered by Barack Obama was a mirage. We don't want anybody to get away with murder because they're polished.
The Democrats have become an anti-Israel party. They've become an anti-Jewish party.
The incident that happened was, I don't think our colleague is anti-Semitic.
When somebody like Representative Omar says something that's utterly indefensible, Nancy Pelosi has to go out and risk looking like a fool.
Jussie Smollett maintains his innocence still
Nancy
after
Pelosi
a grand jury indicts him on 16
Jussie Smollett
for
indicted
disorderly conduct.
If you lie to the police, that's very serious.
The first family surveying the devastation left by several deadly tornadoes in Alabama.
We saw things that you wouldn't believe. These are incredible people. We just met some of the survivors and family members.
Democratic primary voters looking to 2020 may be feeling the burn again.
Going to defeat Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in modern American history.
Hollywood's Captain America pays a visit to Capitol Hill's Captain America.
Really high. And at the right price.
I was going to say something at the top of the show and I paused because I saw you getting ready to do your lyrics. You love singing.
I do.
No, I know. That's why
we're actually very well properly coordinated this morning.
I
must
love
point
this.
out. A lot of
It's kind
purple.
of like prom.
Purple pink.
Yeah.
Pink house.
Have a little fun this morning.
Great to have you, Emily.
Thanks, you guys.
Always.
It's always so great
Welcome
to be
back.
with you guys. Thank you.
And welcome back to Ed Henry.
Yeah, I was over in Vietnam.
Traversing the world, hosting every show on the network.
No, just a couple.
He's a total killer.
But back here with Fox and Friends, which we love, and what's interesting is we talk about being in concert. Democrats having a little trouble staying on the same page, particularly Ilhan Omar, that freshman Democrat from Minnesota, a Muslim American congresswoman who made these comments that have been highly criticized for seeming to be anti-Semitic. They had a watered-down resolution that ended up not naming her specifically and just denouncing hate in general, going after white supremacists, and rightly so, but it pulled it away from where this started, which is her controversial comments, and she's at it again.
She is at it again. So lesson number one, don't do an interview right away after a controversy, which she ended up doing. She spoke to Politico magazine. And again, we've talked about the anti-Semitic comments. We should talk about it more because it still hasn't been truly addressed. She hasn't apologized or answered for it. That's one thing. But Politico magazine asked her about Barack Obama. Part of her answer was, Omar says, hope and change offered by Barack Obama was a mirage. Quote, we don't want anybody to get away with murder because they are polished. We want to recognize the actual policies that are behind the pretty face and the smile.
And Emily, she was talking about Barack Obama's policies on drone strikes and whatnot, which she said had killed people in the Muslim world and elsewhere.
And it's pretty interesting as she continues to throw logs on the fire with her rhetoric. You know, at what point are Democrats going to say, well, this is the line that we draw? Because she's frankly not being discerning with her targets, right? I mean, her comments were absolutely anti-Semitic. We have had mixed reactions from the left. They're not having a unified reaction denouncing it, and certainly she's not recovering from it.
Then she tried to run from the Politico article and the interview and say I was taken out of context. This is not really what happened. And she said, this is why I'm glad I taped my interviews. She put the tape out there. Listen to the tail of the tape, which shows that she said it about Barack Obama.
I think for many of us, we think of ourselves as Democrats, but many of the ways that our Democratic leaders have conducted themselves within the system is not one that we are all proud of. Mm-hmm. You know, I will talk about the family separation or caging of kids, and people will point out that this was Trump. I mean, this was Obama. And, you know, I'll say something about the droning of countries around the world, and people will say that was Obama. And all of that is very true. We can be only upset with Trump because he's not a politician who sells us his policies in the most perfect way. His policies are bad, but many of the people who came before him also had really bad policies. They just were more polished than he was. And that's not what we should be looking for anymore. We don't want anybody to get away with murder because they are polished. Mm-hmm. We want to recognize the actual policies that are behind the pretty face and the smile so that we can understand the kind of negative impact or positive impact they will have on us for generations to come.
So
Wow.
she was talking about Barack Obama, and she was attacking him.
So many things to say, but let's bring in someone better to say it than us. Dan Bongino, Fox News contributor, former NYPD officer, former Secret Service agent, author of Spygate. Dan, you heard it. She released that tape. She's clearly talking about Trump and Obama. I mean, unpack those comments.
Yeah, well, guys, on a very serious note, you know, this is the hallmark of every misguided ideological revolution in human history that's been stooped in government power rather than individual liberty. Think about it. Throughout time, when you have these ideological revolutions where they want to concentrate government power in very few hands, they're inherently cannibalistic. They eat themselves alive, Pete, because what happens? Nobody's pure enough. It becomes a race to radicalism. It becomes her comments were about immigration. First it becomes about, well, let's increase immigration. Well, let's allow illegal immigration. Well, let's just have open borders. Well, let's just give everybody money who comes to the country illegally. I mean, it becomes a race to ideological purity, and I want you all to understand, we are seeing that right now in the Democrat Party, and it is very, very dangerous.
Dan, but it's not just an indictment of Obama, it's an indictment of America. I mean, she said that time and again, as a refugee from Somalia to America, she says, America, to paraphrase, has disappointed me, hasn't given me what is it about that mindset from someone about a country that gave her everything?
Exactly, and Representative Omar attacks Barack Obama. Pete, I don't think any rational person would doubt his radical left bona fides when it came to policies, whether it was, you know, Obamacare or his tax hikes or his individual mandate. I mean, you're attacking Barack Obama. I'm not a fan of his politics, but I'm certainly not going to question his ability to get radical left legislation passed through. Listen, the problem is there's no emergency brake on their behavior. They just don't believe these far left radical socialists in individual liberty. There is just no emergency brake on where they can go, and that's why I said they're inherently cannibalistic, these movements. You're going to see more of this. They're going to start attacking each other and eating themselves alive as they seek new victims.
You're right.
And Dan, speak to the fact that the Democrats are not condemning her.
Yeah, well, there's a reason, Emily. The reason is twofold. The first one is tactical. The Democrat primary season, the way it's set up, California moved its primary earlier now. California is obviously, it's steeped in liberal tradition. They're going to need those liberal votes. So attacking Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, this is a really bad move if you want to get the nomination for president. But secondly, the rage towards Donald Trump has just engendered this movement amongst Democrats where, listen, the party of JFK is dead. It's buried. Those are now moderate Republicans. The only home for Democrats now is on the far left radical side of that ideological spectrum. It's the only place to go. Well, and it's really Donald Trump that's engendered that rage.
Dan, speaking far left, California, one might think of Adam Schiff, of course, the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. Now we learn through Catherine Herridge's reporting here at Fox, exclusively first, that Schiff's staff met with Michael Cohen, who obviously famously flipped on the president, 4 times for more than 10 hours before his high-profile public testimony attacking the president. What does this mean?
Well, this is troubling. I mean, how is Adam Schiff still involved in this? This is by far the sleaziest member of Congress. He's been engaged in an ongoing media leak campaign to tarnish the image of the Trump presidency, to basically obstruct him from being able to get anything done with selective leaks of nonsense collusion hoax information. But the fact that he met with Michael Cohen, a key witness for the left, for the anti-Trump machine, before his testimony on Trump, I mean, where's the collusion charges there? What was going on? We're entitled to know what they were talking about. Why did Cohen need to be guided by a politician about what he was going to say? Ed, can we both agree that the truth is the truth? If Michael Cohen was up there, raised his right hand, and swore to tell the truth, I mean, an honest question for you and everyone else is, well, what did he need Adam Schiff to tell him then? Well, Adam Schiff's a politician looking to get reelected. He doesn't know anything about what Michael Cohen knows.
Were they coordinating stories? Was he being coached, or is he just speaking his mind finally and telling the truth like he claimed?
Exactly, and Ed, can you imagine if this was a meeting with Don Jr. or something beforehand? I mean, granted, Don Jr. is not a politician, but you get my point. Everybody has a vested interest in this case. Schiff's vested interest is appealing to his radical left base in California. Why did he need to meet with Cohen? The truth is the truth. It doesn't need Adam Schiff to guide it.
Well, Dan Bongino, best-selling author, a radio talk show host, former Secret Service agent, and a man you want with you in Vietnam if you want to destroy a breakfast buffet.
Hey, I have newfound respect for you, Ed, by the way. This guy worked all night, folks. I've never seen anything like it, so I mean it.
It was great being with you on the road, buddy.
Good stuff, Dan.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Good talking to you.
All right, turning now to your headlines. 3 people, including a child on a school bus, are killed in a fiery head-on crash overnight. The bus carrying a middle school softball team collided with an SUV near Oklahoma City. Both people in the other vehicle were killed and 7 others injured. Now, the names of the victims have not been released yet, and no word yet on the cause of that crash. A violent carjacker is in custody after trying to illegally enter a military base. The driver ramming through the front gate of a naval station in Washington State in an SUV he stole at knife point. The father dragging his young daughter along for the wild ride. The suspect is expected to face several charges. The Kitsap Bangor base is home to a fleet of nuclear submarines. Now, Iowa's highest court just ruled that Medicaid must cover gender transition services in Iowa. Judges have decided that reassignment surgeries are medically necessary and can't be denied. The bench found that a 1995 policy denying Medicaid funding for such procedures discriminates against a protected class of people. Now, the liberal ACLU calls that ruling, quote, a landmark win, and it's unclear yet if the state will appeal. Senator Elizabeth Warren wants big tech companies to break up. The 2020 presidential candidate claims Amazon, Google, and Facebook are monopolies. Earlier, Pete said he agreed.
I think there's no doubt they are monopolies. Rather than kill them off, how about making sure a way is paved for the little guy to get in?
I'm going to defend Elizabeth Warren. I read her. I'm serious. I read her op-ed. I actually agree with her argument. I don't think you're ending these tech companies. You're breaking them up. They've become anti-competitive.
Whoa.
It's true.
Warren saying she wants tech companies to work for the people. And those are your headlines.
You know, that got us thinking. And I think on the wall, we might have a little something for Pete.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. Look at that, folks. Warren Hegseth 2020. What do you think?
You know,
is this the only thing you two agree on? I mean, vice presidents don't always agree with everything the president.
You don't have to agree with everything. Maybe she just puts me in charge of breaking up the big tech
You've got
companies.
national security credentials. You're good on TV. You bring a lot to the ticket.
No more bias against conservatives in social media. That'll be the big thing.
You can be his press secretary.
Hey, Liz, give me a call. Give me a call. All right. Whatever you need.
We're going to have fun with this all weekend, I bet. All right.
I did not know that was coming.
You've heard several Democrats defending Ilhan Omar's anti-Semitic comments.
I know her to be a fair-minded person.
Do you think she's taking responsibility?
Republicans and the media have blown this up to be much more than it is.
Well, Pastor Robert Jeffers tells us why he thinks this could help the president in 2020.
And it could be the best thing you've seen all day. High school athletes brought to tears as their teacher and, wow, that's cool.
Oh, man.
And coach returns home early from deployment. That hero teacher and one of the students joins us live.
Very sweet.
Congresswoman Ilhan Omar under fire over her controversial anti-Semitic comments. And our next guest says this will impact 2020.
Here to explain, a senior pastor at First Baptist Church and Fox News contributor, Pastor Robert Jeffers. Thank you so much, Pastor.
Good to be with you.
Thanks. So speak to us a little bit about the controversies mounting over Representative Omar and your take on it.
Well, the Democrats' refusal to denounce Omar is just the latest piece of evidence that the Democrat Party is not only an extremist party, it has become a godless party. Let me explain that. I mean, just look at what we've seen the last few months. The Democrats try to erase "So Help Me God" from an oath of office. They support the barbaric practice of late-term abortions and infanticide. And now they refuse to denounce this representative who has said truly hateful things about the Jewish people. I mean, your audience may not know this, but she actually tweeted out that she was praying that, quote, Allah might awaken Americans to the evils of Israel, end of quote. That is offensive to millions of Jews and Christians in this country. That's not just an attack upon American values. The Democrats are attacking the Christian Judeo principles upon which this nation was founded, and I think it's going to have a huge backlash in 2020.
You know, Pastor, she may unfortunately be more in step with public opinion than anyone would care to admit. Recent polling by Gallup shows that support for Israel has dropped just over the past year by percentage points. Support for Palestinians has stayed steady. So talk to us about, in our culture, the unwillingness to recognize a bipartisan consensus. I see you're in Jerusalem. I can recognize that backdrop.
Yes.
Why is support for Israel not as strong as it once was?
I think there are two reasons for that. First of all, I think it's because of the ignorance of the American people about history. Because they don't know history, they buy this liberal line that somehow the Israelis are occupying land here in Israel that really belongs to the Palestinians. But we know from history that the Jews have been in this land for 4,000 years. 4,000 years before there was any mention of Palestinians. That whole term, Palestinian, is a made-up term by a Roman Emperor Hadrian in 100 AD. So people don't know history. But frankly, also people don't know the Bible. I think there are many Jews and Christians who are ignorant of the fact that the Bible says that God has made a promise to Israel. Israel is God's chosen nation, and any nation that blesses Israel, God said, will be blessed by God. Any nation that curses Israel will be cursed by God.
Pastor,
people need to realize what God's word says about this.
Okay. 15 seconds. I want to get your reaction to the president signing some Bibles in Alabama. Some people are saying this was a bad thing to do. What say you?
I told the New York Times last night, it's a great idea. In fact, the next time I see him, I'm going to get him to sign my Bible. There's nothing wrong with signing a Bible. I sign Bibles all the time for people. Right. It's a way of revering the Word of God.
Pastor, stay safe over there in Jerusalem, and we appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Great stuff.
All right, we all want to take care of our kids, of course, but are we doing more harm than good when it comes to medication? The psychoanalyst behind this new op-ed tells us why that quick fix is not always helping. That's next.
Plus, a teen, oh, sorry, Emily, you read it. I took you, I'll read it, okay. A teen screamed at over wearing his MAGA hat on the bus.
Take that truck. Boy, if you don't take that hat off on this bus, take it off. I can't wear a hat? No, take that hat off. Take it off now. Put it in your backpack.
Health, but are we turning to medication too quickly when it comes to our kids? A 2016 study shows 5.2% of all American kids were on some sort of stimulant to treat a behavioral problem. Now, in a new op-ed in the Wall Street Journal entitled "We're Over-Medicating Our Children," our next guest argues medication is a quick fix that doesn't help our kids deal with stress on their own. Author and psychoanalyst Erica Commissar, that's right, joins us now. Erica, thank you so much. What an important op-ed. You've written a book called Being There as well on topics similar to this. The temptation for parents, I've been there. A lot of our viewers have been there. You know, young boys, they don't focus, they're anxious. You want to turn to a solution. Why is that maybe not the right thing to do?
Well, effectively, we're drugging our children, and you'd say we're parenting by giving them pills, and it's a quick fix which silences their pain. So what we know is that symptoms like ADHD and anxiety are responses to stress and psychosocial stressors, family issues, trauma, loss, even too much pressure to achieve. And instead of really listening and understanding and being present for our children and helping, as I say in my book, helping them to regulate their emotions, we're actually just wanting to stop the symptom.
So by silencing the symptoms or what they're dealing with, we're not teaching them to manage them, which effectively they'll need to do later in life, or they keep being dependent on drugs, which, as we all know, we already have a drug problem.
Well, that's right. We're not teaching them any kind of resilience to stress. We're not teaching them how to regulate their emotions, and we're not teaching them about emotional maturity. What we are teaching them is to avoid uncomfortable and painful feelings.
Now, I don't want to play the blame game here, but is this a parent problem or is this a doctor problem?
It's a problem on many levels. Parents are influenced by their pediatricians. Parents are also influenced by schools. So many of the public schools really are pressured because funding has been tied to test scores. And so that means that some of these stimulants are really performance enhancers.
So by providing the medication, it may temporarily boost test scores, but it's not helping kids manage things they'll need later in life.
That's exactly right. So, and even not in public school. I mean, you know, it's a very competitive world, and we want our children to do well. So rather than allowing children to be children in many cases, some of these symptoms trends that we're seeing are related to stress. ADHD is a response to stress, but it's also the high energy of little boys is also developmental. It's developmental.
Boy, isn't that the case? As a parent of high energy little boys, what is your message to parents, boys and girls, that are looking at young boys and saying they do show all the signs of ADHD or anxiety? What's your tip to parents other than medication to manage that?
Don't jump to the conclusion, even if your pediatrician tells you, don't jump to the conclusion that they have ADHD. The first thing you really want to do is you want to have them properly evaluated. Most children that are given medication in America do not meet the diagnostic criterion for ADHD or anxiety, and they're medicated. It's a quick fix. Have them properly evaluated by a mental health care provider, meaning a psychiatrist or a psychologist who specializes in children and adolescents. And then once they're properly evaluated, make sure to get parent guidance. And the American Academy of Pediatrics really recommends first to have an evaluation and talk psychotherapy and parent guidance before you ever even consider medication.
Absolutely.
Medication should not be the first stop. It should be the last stop.
Very good stuff. Erica Commissar, thank you. The book is Being There. Check out the op-ed in the Wall Street Journal as well. Great stuff. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, Nancy Pelosi and House Democrats are encouraging illegal immigrants to vote. A look at the motion they just voted against. You can barely believe it. And we told you about the cheesed challenge where parents, well, like me, threw slices of cheese at their babies. That's my little Gwen right there getting cheese. Well, it's back. And you'll never guess what people are doing now.
Well, it's your shot of the morning. Remember the so-called cheese challenge? It all started when the video of a brother tossing cheese at baby bro went viral. Then everyone started doing it to babies. In fact, I think, Pete, you did it.
Yeah, my family got in on it. That's coming up. That's my daughter, Gwen. Didn't get it straight in the face, got it in the hair, throwing cheese in her. She ended up eating it, of course.
And now, of course, the cheese challenge is going to the dogs. People now throwing single cheese slices at their furry friends.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but their dogs are...
Oh, that one caught it.
I dare you to try to get it on the face of a dog. They're
I would
nab
never
that.
chuck cheese at my 105-pound Doberman's face, by the way.
You might tonight and send it to us for tomorrow morning show.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I would too.
All right. Well,
email us your videos. If you got good videos of this, share it with us, please.
Friends at FoxNews.com. Meanwhile, House Democrats already seem to be at least encouraging illegal immigrants to vote because Republicans were trying to crack down on that. Democrats blocked the effort.
That's right. Well, go ahead.
Go for it.
No, the Democrats in the House just passed H.R. 1. It's a bill they believe would curb money in politics. Here's some of the things from H.R. 1. Aiming to curb money in politics, easier to vote, automatic registration for 18-year-olds, public financing for congressional campaigns. Presidential candidates have to provide their tax returns. Wonder what that's about. Election day, a national holiday. An idea I actually support if you get rid of early voting, but they don't want to do that.
And even the ACLU released a statement against that, saying that it constitutionally impinges on free speech rights of American citizens and public organizational groups. I mean, it's pretty telling when the ACLU is saying it's a bad idea and is unconstitutional.
Yeah, Republicans said, hey, you want to do all these things. Okay, we get it. Democrats are in charge of the House now, but Republicans had a point of view that said, if you really want to make sure that the right people are voting, people who actually have a legal right to vote, right, you should make sure and have a measure in there that says illegal immigrants clearly cannot vote because there's a concern about whether they are voting or not. Well, guess what? The House shot that GOP motion down 228 to 197. So they basically said, no, we don't want to include a provision that makes sure that illegal immigrants don't vote.
Think about this for a second, folks. Just register that in your frontal lobe. A vote, whether or not illegals should be allowed to vote in this country, was shot down by Democrats. Now, I know it was a motion to recommit. Some would say it's a procedural vote. But ultimately, now they're on the record saying, no, I don't want to prevent illegals from voting in federal elections. For all those legal citizens out there, should be an eye-opener.
And this isn't a discussion in a vacuum. This was born out of, in part, a San Francisco issue. It's happening right now, which is illegals voting in certain situations, school board, et cetera.
Local elections.
Exactly. And so it really has real-world implications, obviously, right now. Nancy Pelosi defending voting rights for all immigrants. We have a statement from her here.
She was in Texas a couple days ago.
Newcomers, we have to recognize the constant reinvigoration of America that they are, and these newcomers make America more American, and that means not suppressing the vote of our newcomers to America.
It's a new way of calling it.
Newcomers? Is that a formal
Stacey
term?
Abrams ran for governor down in Georgia, said, I need to put a coalition together. She was talking about Asian Americans. I need illegal aliens, whatnot. She said it out loud. This is what Democrats are saying.
And I think, it's not that there is a complete pushing out or a participation in the system. It's not as if there's ostracizing happening, but I think there's clearly constitutional and legal issues surrounding whether that should happen, and that's the issue here. It's not.
Yeah, and to be clear, if you're a newcomer who's a legal immigrant, you should have the right to vote.
This is about sovereignty. This is what the president says about, do we have a country or not? Does citizenship actually matter? The term newcomer is a joke. For someone to say that is a joke. You'd expect that from an activist on the street. This is the Speaker of the House.
But words matter. That's why they call it dreamers as well.
100%.
Come up with words like
Create
that
the
make it
narrative.
seem okay.
If you're illegal, you don't get to vote. How about that one?
All right, turning now to your
I feel like an old man.
Maryland's highest court denies a new trial to a convicted murderer who gained fame after the popular Serial podcast examined his case. An appeals court reinstating Adnan Syed's conviction after his guilty verdict was overturned due to ineffective counsel. Syed is serving a life sentence for killing his high school girlfriend in 1999. Take a look at this. A school bus aide yells at a student over his MAGA hat he was wearing on Hat Day, by the way, before ripping it off his head.
Take that trash. Boy, if you don't take that hat off on this bus, take it off.
I can't wear a hat?
No, take that hat off. Take it off now. Put it in your backpack.
Gunnar Johansson wearing the cap at his Florida school, and he says the aide hasn't been on the bus since the incident. Note, police are investigating. The so-called goddess of pop is honoring House Speaker Nancy Pelosi by bashing President Trump.
Nancy's a fighter. She won't back down. She muscled through the Affordable Health Care Act, and she isn't afraid to go toe-to-toe with a bully and beat him at his own game.
Cher awarding Speaker Pelosi at the VH1 Trailblazer Honors in Los Angeles. A man's phone is ringing off the hook with birthday wishes as his loving sons plaster his face and phone number on a billboard.
I can't answer them all. This is over the top. Overnight it slows down, but it doesn't stop.
Awesome. Chris Berry's two sons pranking him by purchasing the billboard near his New Jersey home, and he's been getting hundreds of messages from around the world. Ferry turns 62 years old next Saturday. Happy birthday. We should text him too.
Really well done.
Pete, when's your birthday?
I'm not telling anybody. Ever.
I got a great idea.
Especially you, Ed. Never.
All right, Rick, when's your birthday?
It's coming up.
Oh.
It's a big one.
It's a hint.
Oh, it's a big one.
It is a big one.
We'll make sure we get to that one. We'll get to that.
It is coming up way too soon, let me tell you that much. All right, guys, let's talk a little weather out there. There's a lot going on, including severe weather. Again, this weekend, we had the severe weather with 39 tornadoes last Sunday. Now we have another chance kind of in the same area. I'll show you that in a second. Turn on the maps, and we'll give you an idea. By the way, tonight, don't forget, wake up at 2:30, flip your clock forward so you can lose an hour of sleep, which tomorrow morning, guys, by the way, is going to be really, really tiring for us. It's the one really bad day to be doing a morning show. Here you go. There's your temps as you're waking up. That little warm air mass, that's where we have the severe weather headed towards it. To the northern side of this, parts of the Dakotas, in towards Minnesota, we'll see some spots, 6 to 12 inches of snow, so winter solidly still going on. Down across the south, this is where we have that threat for severe weather. It will go throughout the day and into this evening, and by this evening, especially where you see that hatched area in that orange, that's where we could be looking at potentially a couple of large tornadoes. We saw the damage that happened last weekend from this, so if you're in this area, be very prepared and have an escape plan and a plan to stay safe if you need. All right, guys, back to you inside.
All right, Rick, happy birthday.
You know we're going to have a full-on birthday party.
We're going to have a lot of candles. We're so excited.
We'll burn the place down.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah. All right, burn the place down. Thanks, Rick. All right, well, some freshman Democrats on Capitol Hill, you see them there, shaking up their party with comments like these.
We're going to impeach them. I want to talk about the political influence in this country.
I'm the boss.
That's
How about that?
So, has Nancy lost control of her own party? We'll debate that coming up next.
And high school athletes brought to tears as a teacher and coach comes home early from deployment. That hero teacher and one of his joyous students joins us live straight ahead.
To you and says, Mama, look, you won. Bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't, because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them.
I want to talk about the political influence in this country that says it is okay for people to push for allegiance to a foreign country.
So until you do it, I'm the boss. How about that?
Oh, yeah. Just months into office, some outspoken freshman House Dems, as you see there, stirring up a little bit of controversy within their own party. But is their bold language causing trouble for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, or is it what Democratic primary voters want heading into 2020? Here to debate, Buck Sexton, host of the Buck Sexton radio show, aptly named, and Nathan Rubin, a Democratic strategist and founder of Millennial Politics. So good to have you both.
Thank you.
Nathan, I was on with Juan Williams yesterday, my friend, and he is my friend, but he was trying somehow to spin this whole Congresswoman Omar and the resolution and her anti-Semitic comments as a victory for Nancy Pelosi because she somehow held the Democratic Party together. Hasn't it been an awful few days for them?
I don't know if I would say awful. I mean, if you just go back and look at what
I thought you wanted to talk about jobs and health care. You're talking about anti-Semitic comments.
Well, I mean, if you look, Nancy Pelosi was able to outmaneuver Donald Trump in the government shutdown. They just passed H.R. 1, which is the most sweeping Democratic reform bill
die in the Senate
since Watergate.
Which will die in the Senate.
And they're bringing new ideas to the table like the Green New Deal and having these big debates. So I don't think
hang on one second. I will let you speak, but everything you're saying
You just interrupted me twice.
I did, but I want you, well, because Mitch McConnell, you say the Green New Deal, this is great and it's going to go forward. Mitch McConnell said, I want to bring it up for the vote. And your fellow Democrats said, don't do that. It will never pass. It's just for show.
We need to have these discussions, and these discussions are happening because we have new blood in the Democratic Party. Nancy Pelosi is keeping her caucus together. They are passing legislation, and they're conducting oversight of the Trump administration. Congressman Nadler just put out a request for 81 different people to come and produce documents related to the Trump organization, the Trump campaign, the Trump administration. That's oversight.
Okay, well, Buck, I thought Democrats said heading into the midterms they weren't focused on impeachment and that kind of oversight. They would do some of it in terms of oversight, but they want to talk about jobs and health care.
Look, I love all of this. The crazier the Democrats are going to be, the better going into 2020. The more they want to talk about banning air travel and how cow farts are going to melt the planet and all these things, which as much as they pretend they're not really talking about, these are actual policy ideas. I mean, the Green New Deal is going to come back to haunt them when they have to actually look at voters in states that they want to win that are up for grabs. That's why Mitch McConnell's like, we'll wait on that one in the Senate until we decide to vote on it because it's a laughable policy document, and they know that. That's why they've been walking away from it right now. So the more wacko, the more left-wing they can be now, the better in the long run. That clip of I'm the boss, by the way, you will see that going into 2020.
Nathan, quick response there, and we'll move to the second topic.
The idea that we're talking about cow farts and banning air travel, this isn't a serious discussion. This is a joke, what we're talking about.
We agree on that, but that's what they put out in the policy companies.
We are focusing on the wrong things. Climate change is real, and the sooner that we all come to understand that, the sooner and better off we all will be. So we need to stop acting in bad faith and have real conversations.
Let's talk 2020. Joe Biden is former vice president, obviously, has great standing in the Democratic Party, a national leader, but we have a whole bunch of other folks running. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, some of the folks on the left that we've been talking about pushing Green New Deal and other things and have actually been defending Congresswoman Omar's comments. Does Joe Biden, Nathan, as a Democrat, I want to start with you, has the Democratic Party moved too far left for someone like Joe Biden?
I don't know if that's the case. There are a number of different constituencies within the Democratic Party. We do like to think of ourselves as a big tent party, and there was a recent poll that showed that the biggest identification in the Democratic Party was as an Obama Democrat. And I think Joe Biden, if he were to jump in, he would kind of go in that lane and try to carry on the Obama legacy.
Interesting, Buck, because we've been showing Bernie Sanders, he's out there, he's firing up really big crowds like he did in 2016. He was like sort of an oddity in 2016. Oh, there's no way a socialist would do well. And there are actual Democratic contenders now running to the left of him.
Well, this is what's so important. It's not just the rhetoric of people like Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar that's moved really far left. The Democratic Party has embraced Medicare for all, the Green New Deal. You look at where they are on these issues. The demonization of wealth and of people that have done well. That is now mainstream, and it's going to continue to be mainstream in the party, which I think is to our benefit going forward. And as for Joe Biden, this is a guy who I think never broke 1% when he was actually trying to run for president before.
It may change now that he had more standing.
It absolutely may. He has bigger name recognition now,
Sure.
but he also doesn't have Obama's coattails anymore to ride on, and he doesn't have a media that's going to say whatever he says that's stupid. Oh, it's just funny. He's just clever Uncle Joe. No, they're actually going to have to hold him to account.
Quick final
Let's look what Buck just said. He said Democrats are moving so far to the left, talking about Medicare for all, which is health care for every American, the Green New Deal, combating climate change. These are real things we need to do.
All important subjects.
They're real things.
We'll see if you ever explain how you're going to pay for
things.
it. Nathan, Buck,
Yes, thank you.
The left never shies away from criticizing Mike Pence's Christian faith. But this time, the media turning President Trump and the Bible into a bit of a joke. Why? We'll break down the back and forth and the controversy next. And high school teens brought to tears when their teacher, an Army National Guardsman, surprises them. He came home early from deployment, that captain, and the first student who you saw there leaping Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
Omar says the hope and change offered by Barack Obama was a mirage. We don't want anybody to get away with murder because they're polished.
The Democrats have become an anti-Israel party. They've become an anti-Jewish party.
The incident that happened was, I don't think our colleague is anti-Semitic.
When somebody like Representative Omar says something that's utterly indefensible, Nancy Pelosi has to go out and risk looking like a fool.
Jussie Smollett maintains his innocence still
Nancy
after
Pelosi
a grand jury indicts him on 16 Jussie Smollett for disorderly conduct.
If you lie to the police, that's very serious.
The first family surveying the devastation left by several deadly tornadoes in Alabama.
We saw things that you wouldn't believe. These are incredible people. We just met some of the survivors and family members.
Democratic primary voters looking to 2020 may be feeling the burn again.
Going to defeat Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in modern American history.
Hollywood's Captain America pays a visit to Capitol Hill's Captain America.
Really high. But at the right price.
I was going to say something at the top of the show, and I paused because I saw you getting ready to do your lyrics. You love singing.
I do.
No, I know. That's why
we're actually very well properly coordinated this morning.
I
must
love
point
this.
out. A lot of purple.
Kind of like prom.
Purple pink.
Yeah.
Pink house.
Have a little fun this morning.
Great to have you, Emily.
Thanks, you guys.
Always.
It's always so great
Welcome
to
back.
meet you guys. Thank you.
And welcome back to Ed Henry.
Yeah, I was over in Vietnam.
Traversing the world, hosting every show on the network.
No, just a couple.
He's a total killer.
But back here with Fox and Friends, which we love, and what's interesting is we talk about being in concert. Democrats having a little trouble staying on the same page, particularly Ilhan Omar, that freshman Democrat from Minnesota, a Muslim American congresswoman who made these comments that have been highly criticized for seeming to be anti-Semitic. They had a watered-down resolution that ended up not naming her specifically and just denouncing hate in general, going after white supremacists, and rightly so, but it pulled it away from where this started, which is her controversial comments, and she's at it again.
She is at it again. So lesson number one, don't do an interview right away after a controversy, which she ended up doing. She spoke to Politico magazine. And again, we've talked about the anti-Semitic comments. We should talk about it more because it still hasn't been truly addressed. She hasn't apologized or answered for it. That's one thing. But Politico magazine asked her about Barack Obama. Part of her answer was, Omar says, hope and change offered by Barack Obama was a mirage. Quote, we don't want anybody to get away with murder because they are polished. We want to recognize the actual policies that are behind the pretty face and the smile.
And Emily was talking about Barack Obama's policies on drone strikes and whatnot, which she said had killed people in the Muslim world and elsewhere.
And it's pretty interesting as she continues to throw logs on the fire with her rhetoric. You know, at what point are Democrats going to say, well, this is the line that we draw? Because she's frankly not being discerning with her targets, right? I mean, her comments were absolutely anti-Semitic. We have had mixed reactions from the left. They're not having a unified reaction denouncing it, and certainly she's not recovering from it.
Then she tried to run from the Politico article and the interview and say I was taken out of context. This is not really what happened. And she said, this is why I'm glad I taped my interviews. She put the tape out there. Listen to the tail of the tape, which shows that she said it about Barack Obama.
I think for many of us, we think of ourselves as Democrats, but many of the ways that our Democratic leaders have conducted themselves within the system is not one that we are all proud of. You know, I will talk about the family separation or caging of kids, and people will point out that this was Trump. I mean, this was Obama. And, you know, well, I'll say something about the droning of countries around the world, and people will say that was Obama. And all of that is very true. We can be only upset with Trump because he's not a politician who sells us his policies in the most perfect way. His policies are bad, but many of the people who came before him also had really bad policies. They just were more polished than he was. And that's not what we should be looking for anymore. We don't want anybody to get away with murder because they are polished. We want to recognize the actual policies that are behind the pretty face and the smile, so that we can understand the kind of negative impact or positive impact they will have on us for generations to come.
So she was talking about Barack Obama.